Hello and welcome back to my channel. So we all love personality, right? We get to learn a little bit about ourselves, and frankly, who doesn't love that? Personality is roughly defined by psychologists as these stable, enduring patterns of thoughts, feelings, and behavior. So it's basically, what are you like? If you think of all these adjectives that you use to describe somebody, that's basically what personality is. So you could describe somebody as being funny, social, outgoing, reserved, emotional, sensitive, or organized, productive, efficient, friendly. There's all these different adjectives that we would use to describe somebody, and this is basically what personality is. So just what somebody is like over time and over situations. But a question I get a lot from students and just regular people is whether personality is this fixed and stable concept or whether it's something that can be flexible and be shaped. And the answer is that yes, personality is flexible. It usually doesn't change extremely quickly. It usually takes time and experiences to shape your personality, but there are many different factors that do shape your personality. So while personality is considered to be relatively stable, it's not a fixed or completely stable concept. There is definitely some room for growth there, room for improvement, I guess you could say. So the person that you are today is probably going to be really similar to who you are tomorrow or next week, but if you compare yourself today to who you were 10 years ago, you're probably going to start to see more differences because there have been a lot of experiences that you've had over the past 10 years. You're not quite the same person. So in today's video, we're going to be looking at the different factors that shape your personality and the roles that they play. So number one is your genetics. Yes, we all start with something. So back in the day, behavioral psychologists specifically used to believe that when you're born, you're like a blank slate. You can become whatever it is that the environment shapes you into. And we now know that that's not completely true. You do inherit a set of genetic codes from both your mother and your father that you can kind of think of as just the basic blueprint for the type of person that you're going to become. With that being said, genetics are not the be-all, end-all. You are not born the person that you will always be. There are certainly changes that are going to happen to that blueprint depending on the type of environment that you are in, but it gives your body something to start with. So you can definitely inherit various personality tendencies from your parents or from your genetic lineage, and you are not this blank slate. So it gives your body something to work off of, although it is definitely not the end game. The second thing that shapes your personality is your culture and your environment, and this makes a lot of sense. If you are in a culture where personality traits like autonomy and assertiveness and extroversion are really emphasized, then that's going to shape you into being a more social, outgoing, assertive type of person. It just makes sense, right? That's the cultural expectation, and that's going to push you into being more so that type of person. But if you are in a culture that really values being friendly and agreeable and working well with others and being more dependent on others, then it's going to kind of shape you into being more so of that type of person. Now, if you are naturally, let's say, a very introverted kind of person, right? Both of your parents are huge introverts, you're a huge introvert. Being in a more extroverted, outgoing kind of culture is not going to make you into this huge extrovert. It just might kind of shape you into a more extroverted person than what you may have been otherwise. So keep that in mind. Really, both your genetics and your culture / environment are going to interact together to form your personality. And you can also think of it this way: if you yourself grew up in a completely different culture, you would not be quite the same person that you are today because your experiences, your environment really do make up a big piece of who you are. Of course, you would still have the same genetics, so you wouldn't be a completely different person, but you would definitely be a different person because you'd have a different environment. The third factor that shapes your personality is the situation that you are in. And this is a question I get a lot when it comes to personality. Well, if we behave differently in different situations, does that mean personality is still a stable concept? So I want you to think about this. Are you exactly the same person at home when you're with your family, you're very comfortable, or you're by yourself, compared to when you're out with your friends at a restaurant or at a bar or wherever it might be? The answer is probably no. You're not quite exactly the same. You behave in different ways depending on the situation. And then when you're at work, right, you're kind of a different person there too. Maybe you have to be more professional. Maybe you have to kind of socialize with people who you might not like as much and things like that. But depending on the situation, it's not that you are a different person, okay? I don't want you to think of it like that. You are the same person with the same personality, but depending on the situation that you are in, it's going to kind of shape and bring out different parts of your personality just depending on what is expected. So when you're at work, for example, things like productiveness, organization, teamwork are really going to be emphasized. So it's going to kind of try to draw those parts of you out. And if you're not a very conscientious person, well, it might kind of force you to act in a more conscientious way, which could over time shape your personality. But when you're out with friends, right, that's a totally different situation. It might call for more outgoing behavior, being friendly, sociable, happy, interactive, and it's going to kind of draw that out of you. And if you are an extreme introvert, let's say, and you're put into that type of situation, you're going to start to behave in more extroverted ways than what you might normally, and it will kind of start to shape your personality if you are put into situations like that frequently over time. So the situation definitely shapes your personality. The way that you behave in one situation is not going to be how you behave in a different situation. The fourth factor that shapes your personality is major life events. Now, we all have major things that happen to us in our lives, whether it's the death of a loved one, or the birth of our child, or getting married, or uprooting our whole life and moving to a new country. It might be a traumatic life event. It could be a whole lot of different things, but there are these major moments in our lives that shape who we become. And this makes sense. When we experience a huge shift in our life, a big change, that is thrusting us into a new type of environment in some way, shape, or form. And that can change your perspective on life. It can change the things that you value. It can just change the ways that you look at things, the things that are important to you, the things that you are exposed to. It's going to shift your life in a major way when you experience a huge life event. And you will adapt to whatever your new situation is in life when you experience a major life event. You're going to naturally adapt. And it's under these situations that we sometimes see more rapid personality development than what we would normally see. So like I said at the beginning of this video, usually personality development does not happen extremely quickly. It happens over long periods of time that we really start to see differences. But when you experience a major life event, we might see that change happen much more quickly than normal because it's such a rapid shift in your life that's happened. The fifth factor that affects your personality or shapes your personality is your own life choices. So if you are somebody who really likes to keep things the same, right? You don't like to make big moves in your life, you like things to be consistent, you like to know what to expect, then you're not going to choose to put yourself into situations that might shape your personality faster. So if you get that big job opportunity in another city, you're probably not going to take it because, well, you'd have to uproot your whole life. It might be too much for you. But let's say that you are somebody who is more open to these big life changes. Your choices will more so dictate the things that you are exposed to in your life. So maybe you do decide to take that huge job opportunity in another city, and now suddenly you're exposed to all of these new ideas, new people. You have to start over from scratch, whatever it might be, and those challenges then shape you into the person that you become. But what I'm trying to get at is that ultimately you make the decisions in your life. You choose where you want to live. You choose when to start a family, or if you want to start a family. You choose who to start a family with, right? You choose the people that you want to be around, who your friends are. You choose whether to take opportunities as they are presented to you. There are a lot of choices that you yourself make in your everyday life that will determine the situations that you are put in, the people you are surrounded by, the environment that you're going to be living in, right? Many of these choices are made by you. And what usually happens is that people will kind of search out other people and environments that match with them, so that make them feel comfortable, make them feel validated, right? They kind of want to be surrounded by things that suit them and that match them. But sometimes people choose different things just depending on what type of person they are and the life that they want to lead. So your choices do matter when it comes to your personality. And the sixth and final factor that shapes your personality is just time. Time in and of itself is going to shape your personality because with time comes more experiences, more knowledge, more choices that you have to make about the direction that you want your life to take. You're going to encounter new things. You're going to learn more. These things just happen naturally with time. And these changes don't have to be incredibly extreme changes. So maybe your personality at 20 is still pretty similar to who you are at 60. That can happen. It doesn't necessarily have to be these giant leaps and bounds of changes that we see over time. Some people will change more than others. Some people will stay relatively consistent. It does kind of depend on the person, yeah. I mean, that's a fact. People live different types of lives. But generally speaking, we are going to see some kind of change in personality as you age, as you grow and develop. Now, in terms of changes that we see on average across time, this is kind of interesting. We see that as people get older, they do tend to become more agreeable, so more friendly, more cooperative, more trusting, and more conscientious. So more organized, more productive, more efficient. They're going to be better with their time. We also see that as people age, they tend to become less neurotic. So they are less consumed with negative emotions. They tend to be happier people, which is pretty cool. They tend to be less anxious and less depressed, although there is some mixed research on this, I will say. And they also tend to be less open-minded. So older people do tend to prefer for things to be more stable, more consistent. They like to know what to expect from their environment, and so on and so forth. Now, these are changes that we see happening over time, just on average. That doesn't mean that it's going to be what you encounter or what you experience. This is just the general trend that we see over time. So not everyone's personality is guaranteed to shift like that. It's just typically what we see in personality research. So to sum it all up, personality is certainly not a fixed concept. There are many factors that can and do shape your personality over time. So the person you are today might not be who you are in 20 years. You will just have to wait and see. So there is a link to a blog post that I wrote down below about this topic. Check that out if you are interested. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. It does help support my channel. It gets my video out to more people. Ding that notification bell if you'd like to be alerted as to when I upload videos in the future. Make sure that you are subscribed if you enjoy psychology, if you want more psychology-related content just like this. And I will see you in the next video. Bye.